Okay,
7 o'clock.
so I think we're good.
Yep.
Beth, we're good?
Correct.
Okay, let's get this thing going. I'd like to welcome everybody. This is the City of Ellensburg City Council meeting for the evening of Monday, January 4th, 2021. So I hope this year clearly works out to be better than last year, unless last year you had a good year and then you could disregard what I just said, because that would be fine too. If we would start the meeting with the roll call.
Engel.
Here.
Goodlow.
Here.
Lamb.
Here.
Lilquist.
Here.
I don't. Councilmember Morgan.
Here.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
It's good to see you, Mary.
Going to the wrong meeting, apparently.
Might work out better than this one, so just remember where you were. We have no proclamations that I saw. I did not have any awards and recognitions. I believe that would just move us then to approval of the agenda.
I move approval of the agenda as presented. Second.
So a motion second to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
I too vote aye. That motion carries. That brings us to consent.
I move approval of the consent agenda as presented. Second.
Motion and second to approve consent agenda as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
I too vote aye. That motion carries. Thank you. So that does bring us to the COVID-19 update. Tristan, is that you this evening? I don't see. Dr.
The
Larson
doc
on.
was gonna join us, but I don't
We
see
probably
him.
we got here quickly.
Yeah, he's got a couple things going on. Well, okay, so off the cuff, until the doc gets here, I believe that the vaccine, the COVID-19 vaccine distribution branch of the IMT, which is a partnership between a lot of people, but I would say that KVH and definitely Rich Elliott and everyone at KVH, particularly their infection prevention specialists, Mandy Olson and Anna Scarlett, have really, we are ahead of everybody else. So we have gone through tier 1. I think everyone was completed today. There are some doses on in reserve just in case, because there were some extra doses for overfilling the vials. So we want to hold on just in case there aren't as many extra doses in the next round. There's the doc. So we are holding on to a little bit, and I think Pacifica will be completed on Wednesday, but everything is in line to complete that phase 1A. And our vaccine planning group is discussing next steps, because we are a little bit ahead of the game, whereas almost 100% of our vaccine allotment has been distributed in Kittitas County. The rest of the world is still catching up. Dr. Larson might know it was 18% of all available vaccines had been distributed last week. Hopefully this week that is up higher than 18%, but definitely we're doing better here. I tried to do an update off the cuff, Dr. Larson, and that's as far as I've gotten for the group.
Good
evening. Can
hey, yeah,
can you hear me?
We're good. We can.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks, Tristan. I was still trying to negotiate technology here. So, so the vaccine planning group, mostly Rich Elliott and Anna Scarlett from the hospital, have done a phenomenal job at getting vaccine into arms in Kittitas County. We are over 1,000 doses of vaccine into groups 1A, and we've also vaccinated approximately 100 high-risk teachers, which are not in group 1A. They're probably going to be in group 1B. We vaccinated all of the residents and staff at Prestige Hearthstone that were interested in getting vaccinated. Wednesday, we will be vaccinating folks at Pacifica. At Prestige Nursing Home, they were vaccinated on New Year's Day. And we have vaccinated the residents at the 2 adult family homes in Upper County. So they have done an exceptional job at getting vaccine in arms. We will be getting more vaccine essentially based upon population. Tristan and I have a vaccine call tomorrow morning with Dr. Shaw, who is our new Secretary of Health, looking at how that's going to work. So that's where we're at from a vaccine standpoint. We still have Moderna vaccine in Kittitas County, but we do not have any Pfizer vaccine left. We'll start doing second dose of Pfizer vaccine for those that were vaccinated in the first round starting on Thursday of this week. It's also been a huge lift from the hospital standpoint, which just goes to show how well our community partners have been working through this. We would not be able to do what we've done without the help of the hospital. Central Washington University is back in town. They are planning on testing starting on Thursday of this week. They are keeping their students out of in-person classes for 14 days while they're waiting for results back on testing results. I also had a discussion today with Central looking at planning for the fall and their position on vaccination. So they are already starting on planning for the fall 2021 quarter. So looking ahead. From a school standpoint, we are doing twice weekly testing of staff at Cle Elum Roslyn and once weekly testing of students at Cle Elum Roslyn, and programs are being set up to do continuous testing in students and staff throughout the rest of the county. I've been working with the state in regards to obtaining more testing capability for us as a county. Our numbers are still high. We're still getting about 20 to 30 new cases daily. Our incident rate is somewhere just shy of 600 cases per 100,000 for 14 days. But in regards to K through 12 education, we still have not seen significant transmission within school, although it does appear that we probably had some transmission occur at Lincoln Elementary School just prior to Christmas break. We are expecting a large jump of cases the end of this week or early next week in regards in relationship to the Christmas and New Year's holiday, and we will be encouraging people to continue to mask and social distance so we can keep businesses and schools still in session moving forward. And that's what I have for an update. The staff is working exceptionally hard, especially the case and contact investigation staff are working really, really hard. Candy Blackford is doing an excellent job in regards to that work. And we will be turning over our case and contact investigation for Central Washington University to Amy Wochna, who's a faculty member in the Department of Public Health at Central as we move forward in the winter quarter. End of report.
Great, thanks so much.
I'll take any questions. Yep.
Yeah, council questions?
I would like to make a comment. I just want to thank Tristan and all the staff and Dr. Larson especially, and congratulate you on being named Person of the Year. I thought that was a appropriate honor for you, and it just demonstrates in a small way how much we appreciate everything that you've done.
Here, here.
I would echo that.
Thank you. It does take a village. It was a little overwhelming to me to see my face in the newspaper on Saturday, but I am thankful for the nice comments that Tristan and Dr. Beck and Dr. Merrill Seskel said. So it's a group effort for sure.
But you've been willing to shoulder your burden. Though I would also note that you are not on camera this evening, so I'm not sure if that's in reaction to seeing your picture in the paper on Saturday. Any questions or anything else for Dr. Larson? Again, I want to appreciate also your willingness to, after your day, which doesn't probably end with this, showing up for our council meetings and giving us this information and the updates. I think it's helpful for us, and it's certainly helpful for anybody that's tuning in. So appreciate that also.
You're welcome. It's always nice to be here.
And it's my understanding that they're testing each student before they return to classes. Is that, or before they return to campus?
That's correct. They are testing all students prior to returning to in-person testing. Or in-person classes. So we have students on campus already. They are being tested. Those students that have chosen not to come back until in-person classes are in session, which is just after Martin Luther King holiday, those students will be tested at home. And then Central Washington University is going to be doing random prevalence testing of, I believe, about 160 students / staff on a weekly basis moving forward. They're also debating how they're going to address vaccine compliance in students and staff moving forward. So they've really been an excellent partner with us at Public Health, and have shouldered a huge burden. And I think we've been successful because of our partnership with them as well.
Thanks.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Larson, this is Stacy. I had a question about the vaccine. There's
Sure.
as you administer that, the level of opt-out, is it what you anticipated? Do you think it's gonna hinder our ability to get herd immunity for the people that can't get the vaccine? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, it's always disappointing to me that 100% of people don't choose to be vaccinated, because I choose to view vaccination as what we do for others. But we've had some reluctance with vaccine, both in healthcare providers as well as in first responders. The uptake in the K through 12 teachers that had the opportunity to be vaccinated was much better than in the healthcare providers. I think as people start to as people continue to educate themselves in regards to vaccine, and more data comes out, I think we're going to get more vaccine into arms. For example, at Prestige Nursing Home, some of the staff said, well, I already had COVID-19, so why should I get COVID-19 vaccine. And when I talked to them about that, then they said, oh yeah, okay, I get it. And they went ahead and got vaccinated. So I think there's a lot of education that needs to happen. I think there's a lot of false information on the internet. I had a long discussion with one of our county commissioners today in regards to that, but I think we will reach herd immunity. I think it'll be later than what I would like to see it, but I think the longer we get out and the more we talk about the fact that the vaccine does not cause things like infertility, and there's no chip inside the vaccine and those type of things, and just get more education out. I think that'll help. I think Dr. Merrill Stuskal is a huge benefit to our community as far as somebody who understands vaccines, and I am going to ask him to speak at the Board of Health meeting this month if we can still get him on the agenda.
That's great. Thank you.
Anything else? Again, thanks. Thanks for those questions. I think they're helpful for people to hear the response. And to Stacy's point, I think the misinformation or disinformation that's occurring around the vaccine is critical to all of us. So I think it's important to make sure that we're getting clear information. I do believe that the health department is working to push out accurate information around the vaccine generally throughout the county. Is that still accurate, Tristan?
Yes, that is always the plan. That of course comes with a caveat of staff with an unmanageable workload and no more funding for that specific endeavor. But with the new federal relief package, that could change.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so let's wrap that. Again, Dr. Larson, thanks for sitting in, Tristan also, and for everybody. And I think, again, the other piece for all of us that are listening to this, as well as is the observation that this is not one individual effort that's made this come together in the way that it has. It's a collaborative effort with really everyone in our community, everyone in this county, as well as our healthcare first responders, the folks that are on the front lines, teachers. It's just remarkable if you think about what it's taken to support this and to continue to support us to get through. So it's recognized and appreciated. Let's move on then to 6B. This is page 73 in our agenda packet, the board and commission applications. At our last meeting, we heard from Emma Johnson, who had applied, I believe, for the Parks and Rec Commission, but then listed Affordable Housing Commission as one of her other options.
Actually, she applied for library board.
Okay, and anyway, thank you. Between that meeting and this, we've had an additional application for the Affordable Housing Commission, Hong Tao Dong, who I believe is on the call and can correct me if I didn't quite get your name appropriately.
Right.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for making application to the Affordable Housing Commission. Really, this is just an opportunity for council to have, if they have questions of you or questions that came about because of your application. It's also an opportunity for you to just take a couple minutes and introduce yourself to the council. Your reason and rationale for perhaps wanting to serve on the Affordable Housing Commission, and perhaps some of your background that you may not have covered in your application. So if you'd like to address council, that would be more than welcome.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor Tapp. So I joined Central Washington University as assistant professor in construction management program in September 2019. So I came to Ellensburg for about a year and a half right now. And just about this year, in September, I bought a house. And so I kind of know the housing market a little bit, but not a lot yet. But I have experience in designing projects, managing construction projects. My experience are kind of spread into different industry. I worked 2 years as a bridge engineer and 2 years as a structural engineer project manager for power plants and lock and dams. And the last recent 2 years of working experience, I was working as a manager for a hotel company. And so they are developing hotel and designing and constructing hotels nationwide. I fly different states and a lot of places. They built hotel in Florida, South Carolina, Minnesota, Iowa, New York. A lot are on the East Coast and Midwest. But I have those experience, and I sort of felt like when I first came to Ellensburg, I was looking for an apartment to rent, and I felt like the availability was pretty small. Like there isn't much you can choose from. There isn't many you can choose from. So, and the housing market definitely is pretty hot here, and it's very expensive. So I want to dedicate my experience and expertise and whatever I can do to improve the housing condition in Ellensburg.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Council, are there any questions?
I had a comment rather. I've had the opportunity to work with Hung Tao on a couple projects just through the construction management program at Central. And I just wanted to say I appreciate you and your willingness to donate your time towards this. I think that you'd be a good addition to the committee.
Thank you.
Great. Other, well, that wasn't a question. Any other questions or any questions for Hung Tao? So we can do a couple different ways because we talked to Emma Thompson the last.
You could go ahead and make the appointment. There is nothing that would preclude making the appointment tonight. And it is a mayor's appointment with council concurrence.
Okay, so the rationale, okay, so that's perfect. So I would actually, knowing that we have a vacancy on the commission and also knowing that that would provide Hung Tao an opportunity for a couple weeks at least to, as an official, as a commission member, to begin to gain broader knowledge and information. And given his background, recommend that we would appoint him to the commission effective this evening with council approval.
I would agree with that.
I concur.
Okay, do we need a motion, John?
I'll move approval of the mayor's appointment.
Okay,
I'll second that.
so we have a motion and second to approve Hung Tao Dong as to the Affordable Housing Commission. Again, I appreciate your willingness to serve, and I want to be clear that this is not that hopefully Emma Johnson has not seen this. This is not a negative on her application or her willingness to serve. Nancy has worked with the Affordable Housing Commission for what, 1.5 years, 2 years, and I'm currently chairing. The knowledge and experience that Hung Tao would bring to the commission right now, I think, is critical in us moving forward. And Ms. Thompson just simply, or Johnson, I'm sorry, simply didn't present those elements. Certainly, if there were an opening on the library board or Parks and Rec, her other interest, I think she would be a great addition to the boards and commissions for the city. So we do have a motion second on the floor to affirm the appointment. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I too vote aye. So Hung Tao, thank you for your willingness to serve. You might want to serve or go to 2 or 3 meetings before you thank us for appointing you. But I think it's going to be a great addition to the commission. So thank you.
It's my pleasure. Thanks.
Great. So that'll bring us then to 6C. This is a letter that we received from the Kittitas County Climate Action Coalition Group. We're on page 79 in our agenda packets. This, I don't believe there's anyone from the coalition that is on here to speak to the letter. But I would kind of toss it over, maybe Nancy. Seems like this falls both in the Environmental Commission's arena as well as potentially the Utility Advisory Committee. So maybe it would be helpful if you want to maybe have your perception or read on this, and we can move.
Yeah, I looked, they had referenced the Bellingham Climate Task Force's report, and I did take a brief look at that, and there are a number of recommendations in that, and they approached it in a what seemed like a solid way in terms of what would have the most benefit in terms of carbon reduction, and what might be doable. But of course, Bellingham's a different city than we are. So I guess what I would request from the group is that they choose one or maybe two projects that they think that might best move forward in Ellensburg, because the proposals that have come before us in the past, we've spent a lot of staff time running down the answers to their questions and explaining what would work and what doesn't work. And I just want to start with one thing, move it forward to the Environmental Commission, get their read on it, and let it go through the process. And then we can do one thing, and then we can do the next thing and not spend, I don't know, there must be 100 recommendations in this report in different categories. And I just don't know, not all of them are things that I think the city could realistically accomplish. I'm not clear how we can get to prohibiting electric cars in the city by 2035, or prohibiting gas-powered cars and have all electric transportation system. And even they, said they're not sure that that's legal, and there's just some hurdles to a lot of the things that are recommended in the report. So I can, I'll volunteer myself to talk with their group to kind of winnow that down and to go from there, and to what's realistic and what's not. I guess I would request that our electric utility is not included in consideration. The amount of staff time that is now devoted to responding to the state's, what is it, CETA? I can't remember what the acronym stands for now, but it is on the power side, we have state law that we need to meet those goals for greenhouse gas reductions. So I would not volunteer that category of recommendations to be considered at this time. So, there's things we're already doing, and we've kind of been over that territory before, and so I think that we just need to have a discussion about one thing and
Right.
um,
So,
see
so
how that goes.
let me ask council if that does that work? I think what Nancy's, just to kind of reframe it so that make sure that I'm hearing what you're saying. Nancy's willing to reach out to the group. The woman that submitted the letter is Megan Anderson, I think. Is it?
And Paula McMinn, yeah.
And yeah, we're not aware at this point. I'm not aware of the other members of who the coalition might be. But to have that and then have that conversation if there's an ability to focus on one or two specific goals or objectives consistent with the Climate Action Task Force, that would go to the Environmental Commission, not back to council for an initial review. The Environmental Commission then would take a look at the applicability for the city of Ellensburg. And probably at that point, there would be recommendations that might come either back to us or also might go to the UAC first and then come back to the council. Does that seem like a reasonable path in response to the letter? Okay. Okay, so I don't think we need a motion if you're just willing to continue to act it. The minutes will reflect.
I'll make the contact and
Okay.
see where it
Okay.
goes.
And then if you need support on it, just let me know. You know, or if there's some kind of a barrier that emerges in terms of making the contact and not being able to follow through.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Good. Thank you. Thanks for stepping up, and thanks for these folks for submitting the letter. I think it's something that's in front of all of us, and it's a good conversation for us to have as a community. And I think UAC is actually looking at our energy conservation through the CETA process and for where we are as a community at the same time having the conversation with these folks.
This CETA, all of the CETA stuff has been in front of the UAC as well as we just had a conversation at our last meeting about the energy conservation program for both the gas and the electric utility. And, you know, there's some upcoming decisions to be made about how we structure particularly the gas program for this upcoming year.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so that'll bring us now to citizen comment on non-agenda issues. This is 7 in our agenda packet. This is an opportunity for folks who are participating in this meeting to bring items which are not on the agenda in front of council. I would, excuse me, I'd note that, as you do bring this forward, we would not take action on anything that's brought before us this evening. If you are interested in speaking during the non-agenda, please raise your hand. We'll acknowledge you. When you are acknowledged, please state your name, address, and whether you're representing only yourself or others. You will be, non-agenda is limited to 3 minutes. While you are speaking, please do not make comments of a personal, impertinent, or derogatory nature. And again, just to emphasize it, our rules provide that no action will be taken at council at this meeting when a subject is first introduced during the citizen comment period. With that said, is there anyone who wishes to approach council this evening? Oh, I saw a couple hands. There we go. So we have Teresa Plew. So,
can you hear me?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, 140 Woodhouse Loop. I represent, let's see, on this one, I think I represent all of the city of Ellensburg who might be wanting to listen to the live stream of the meeting. It's not working. I've got people who wanted to listen to the live stream of the meeting. So, and it's not working. And we think it's a tech thing because you have to run Flash. And that's kind of outdated. And we found online that it's saying that December, they're not supporting your live meeting. So Did you know that? Is somebody taking care of it? There, people can't see this meeting right
Oh,
now.
interesting.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah, well, no. So I guess I don't think that I'm certainly not aware that we're not, or it's not working. And I guess thank you for bringing that to our attention. I don't know what the fix might be.
And so I don't know, can you have a live meeting like this or a public hearing and it's not being broadcast to the public and they can't watch it?
Well, when we get to the public meeting, thanks for
Okay.
bringing it to our attention. I mean, it's not the intent clearly for us to,
Okay.
The whole stream thing and providing that conduit is so that people can participate.
Okay, and
So
I
let
just
me,
received,
Mary.
I just received an email telling me that it is working for people here in town. Because they're watching it.
No,
So,
I've got somebody within the city limits says that it's not working at their house either. You can verify it. 2 other people have looked at it. There's 3 people, it isn't working for them.
okay, well, thank you. Let me,
I'll put the word out during the meeting to try to get more people to verify it and tell them just put your name down, just send a letter, I don't know. That's the best
yeah,
I can do during the meeting.
well, no, I appreciate you bringing it forward, Teresa.
Okay, thank you.
We'll try and figure it out.
Okay,
Because
and then-
we do have a public hearing coming up next.
And then the other one was that I'm confused on what's a public hearing. In the middle of the summer, when the amendments were proposed, there were 3 of them. And I think there might have been 2 of us speaking up at the public meeting. I was reluctant to let it go forward. And you reassured me that there would be a series of public hearings on it. And so I didn't object anymore. I let it go forward. Now I contacted City Hall and Jamie Ailing, is that his name? Ayers or Ailing, said that he was the one who was assigned to notify people and let them know when the public hearings were going to be. And I emailed with him a couple times. He didn't get back to me. I kept waiting. And I am not sure if you're still doing the public meetings process that you said was going to happen in the summer and Jamie's just dropped the ball, or if this is it. I'm hoping you can clarify if this is the public meeting that you were talking about in the middle of the summer.
Yeah, let's, so just a quick response. There was a public hearing that was in front of the Planning Commission as well as this one. So there would be these 2 public hearings, which were what we were referring to.
Last I heard from Jamie, he was waiting to hear back from, I thought it was Nancy Lilquist. There was somebody on the city council who was going to give him information on how the public hearings were going out so that he could keep me informed, and I never heard.
That we can track down. It's not council's role once we've docketed it. So let's not engage. Anything else?
So is this the public meeting?
The
that you
public
spoke of in July? One of 2.
8A, which is our next agenda item, would be.
Okay.
Okay, good. Thank you, I think. Let's go. I've got Stacy Hammond's hand.
Yes, this is Stacy Hammond. 308 North Sampson Street. The first thing I want to talk about is what you just addressed earlier in this meeting, and you wanted to spend a really long time, in my opinion, stroking the egos of the people that work within the departments around town. In fact, said that it was a collective effort, and you referenced basically people that are either elected or in some kind of position of power or government. And you mentioned specifically schools and things like this. Look, the people out here have been paying for you to do your jobs, number one. Two, we have been suffering. Our businesses have been shuttered while you guys, from what I know, other elected representatives drinking in bars that are closed. Okay. So the whole thing is the people, the kids that don't have educations, the kids that are at home suffering violence, we have been paying. Please stop and cease and desist, continually telling the people how hard you're working and never mentioning the people. Okay. We really appreciate leadership that reflects us, okay, reflects us as the body that actually empowers the position that is elected, which is all of you right here. Okay, that's my first comment. To Teresa's point, if there's any issue tonight, I will speak on behalf of that. If there's any issue with public notification, I would ask that you strike whatever. I don't even know what's coming up next, but if you have not given appropriate notice, or there seems to be confusion, or people are unable to reach out tonight because of flash, whatever, I would suggest and actually demand that you cease voting if people can't reach it, okay? And knowing that you probably are aware that I have now filed litigation, heavy litigation against all of you personally and this council, you need to start doing what is legal, what is constitutional, what is ethical, okay, for the people. In addition, I would like to know what happened to our records. Did you get our records back? Why did I hear only administrative records were ransomed? Did you pay? Because we'll be asking in public record, did you pay a ransom? What was lost? And why is that so conveniently coming before massive litigation aimed at you? I find it to be incredibly, again, unethical. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to approach during non-agenda? Seeing no one, then we'll move on. Thank you. We are now at business requiring public hearing. This is a public hearing. I've got a script. While I'm doing this, though, I would note that we're attempting to verify what might be occurring with the streaming, because that is potentially an issue, truthfully.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Terry. If I might comment on that. I have confirmed that the live streaming works for some people, but may not be working for others, but it is being broadcasted on the cable network. While there, I would like to be able to live stream, but there's no requirement for that. And the people that are live streaming wouldn't be able to participate in the public hearing at any event. If they wanted to participate, they had to register, and they could still do that right now, as a matter of fact, for the meeting. So I don't think it negates anything going on with the public hearing.
So just to reframe what we just heard, before we get into the public hearing, it sounds as if the cable feed is working if people are wanting to watch it's through Spectrum. I think it's what, channel 141, that anyone who had needed to register and could still register to speak to during the public hearing if you chose.
That's great.
What else am I missing then? And that at this point, so then we have an attendee list, and those are folks who have registered. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
Okay. And if anyone is listening at this point or watching through cable, the link for registering is where?
The link's available both on our webpage and also on Facebook. There was a Facebook announcement about this morning. The cable channel is actually 191.
Okay, 191. Okay, so then let's proceed with the reading, with the public hearing. The purpose of this legislative hearing is for City Council to consider conducting first reading of an ordinance amending the city's comprehensive plan. Public hearing is now open. I ask your cooperation in the following procedure. Everyone will be given an opportunity to be heard. City Clerk will be making a recording of the proceedings. If you wish to participate in the hearing, you must raise your virtual hand on the Zoom meeting screen, or press *9 if you're connected by telephone only, and wait until I've recognized your request and you've been unmuted. Should then begin by stating your name, address, and indicate whether you're speaking for yourself individually or as a spokesperson for a certain group or both. Speak slowly and clearly. Only one person will be allowed to speak at a time. Your testimony must only address the matter under consideration. Any questions of staff are to be directed through the council. Each person will have an opportunity to address council for an initial period not to exceed 5 minutes. If more time is needed, it will be made available after everyone has had an opportunity to speak. Before we do hear from the audience, is there a staff report to be presented?
There is. Good evening, Mayor, City Council. This is Kirsten Sackett. I'm in the Community Development Department. This is a pretty important topic we're going to go through today. So I'm going to go through a lot of the materials that are in the agenda packet. So thank you for introducing the topic. But for those that don't know, the comprehensive plan is the community's vision for future growth and development. It looks at 20 years in the future. And it's something that we adopted in 2017. And we have an opportunity to amend it once a year. So this year, 3 proposed amendments to the comprehensive plan were submitted during the annual docketing process. The submitted forms for each proposed amendment are included in the report as exhibits 1 through 3. So in the packets, that's pages 91 through 97. The submittal forms for each proposed amendment are included in the report, indicating who submitted the proposal and the rationale provided by the applicant for the proposed amendment. As I just stated, under the State Growth Management Act, the city is allowed to amend its comprehensive plan 1 time each year. And City Council has adopted a formal amendment process that allows for amendments to be proposed by any member of the community, any City Council member, any city board or commission or city staff member. All docket amendments proposed are considered by city concurrently, so we can't take one at a time. We have to look at them as a package so that the cumulative effects of the various proposals can be ascertained. And so this was referenced previously, but you did hold a meeting July 20th, 2020 to consider the proposed docket items, and you did make a motion to move forward with all 3 proposed amendments, which are docket items 2001, 2002, and 2003. Now, the process for amending the plan is outlined in our Land Development Code, Chapter 15-250-090. And there's very specific procedures we need to follow. And I'll first talk about the public noticing requirements. So the notice for the docketing process actually was published in the Daily Record on June 11th, 2020. That's Exhibit 6 to the packet, and that's found on page 118. 2 of the docket proposals that came out of that process were submitted by city staff, and 1 docket proposal was submitted by a member of the public. Now, one of the public hearings that was discussed was the Planning Commission public hearing. That hearing was held on December 3rd, 2020, and notice for that was published in the Daily Record on November 19th. That is Exhibit 7 in the packet. It's page 119. And notice of tonight's public hearing was published in the Daily Record on December 19th. That's Exhibit 8 on page 121. Now, there was an additional means of public participation prior to the public hearings. That was through the SEPA review process. So any amendments to the comp plan or the land development code are required to go through SEPA. And the public comment period for the SEPA process was initiated with a public notice in the Daily Record on October 31st, 2020. That's Exhibit 9 in the packet found on page 123. And no comments were received, and a SEPA determination of non-significance was issued on November 24th, 2020. And that is Exhibit 10 found on page 125. Now, we're also required to send a 60-day notice of intent to adopt comprehensive plan amendments to the Washington State Department of Commerce. That notice was sent to them on October 14th. That's Exhibit 11 found on page 126. And they in turn sent us an acknowledgement letter just stating that it was received. They started a 60-day review period, and that was complete on December 13th, 2020. That's Exhibit 12 found on page 127. They did not have any feedback for us or comments, and what we end up doing is whatever amendments are approved at the end of the entire process would be submitted to the Department of Commerce for them to keep track in their records. Now, as I've mentioned, there were 3 proposals that I'm going to talk through. I'm going to let you know what those were. Then I'm going to tell you about the outcome of the Planning Commission hearing and talk about next steps as well. So if you look in your packets, I'm going to start doing a screen share. Page, let's see, 91. Okay. Okay, can you see the form that says amendment proposal?
Yep.
Okay, so this is docket item 2001. We assign a number when they're turned in. This was submitted by staff, and this is one that we do every year. We need to update our 6-year capital improvement plan because every year we're going to be updating our budget process. So this is a typical one that we will always see. But moving forward with this, I'm not going to show you all of the spreadsheets unless you want to, but we basically have proposed amendments from community development, parks and recreation, and public works and utilities. And so exhibit 4, found on page 98 through 105, shows all the 6-year capital improvement plan. So that is going to be talking about if there's any street improvements planned in the next 6 years, improvements to the park system, any of the utilities. And so they are outlined in this order: electric, information technology, natural gas, parks and recreation, the sewer system, stormwater, telecommunications, transportation, wastewater treatment, and the water system. So various elements of the capital improvement plans have been gathered from other plans previously adopted by the city. And the most current one is the updated transportation and improvement plan that was approved by council at the last meeting in December. Now moving on to docket item 2002. This was also submitted by staff. The deadline was June 30th. We submitted this on the 29th of June. And I'm not going to read all of this, it's on the screen, but what I put in the packet, the proposal was to add additional language to the comp plan, which focuses on the city's commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusivity. This would be accomplished by, up here on number 1, adding additional value statements and or clarifying language to the introductory section of the comp plan. And secondly, adding a new chapter that expands and focuses on the plan's existing commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusivity. The new chapter would provide goals, priorities, and action items developed by the Mayor's Subcommittee on Inclusion and Diversity. City Council is committed to demonstrating their support of and commitment to this docketing request. In 2020, as has already been shared, Council did form a subcommittee on inclusivity, diversity, and equity, and it was created to focus attention on this topic within the Ellensburg community. Excuse me for a moment. All right, this subcommittee began holding listening sessions with diverse and various groups in the community to share stories and ideas on this topic. And the meetings were smaller in nature to ensure each participant's voice would be heard. Some meetings were held in person, while some were held remotely due to the COVID-19 restrictions. And the listening sessions they continued through the fall of 2020. And a report with recommendations was shared by the subcommittee and given to City Council during the meeting of December 7th, 2020. The information gleaned during the listening sessions held through September was used to update the value statements found in the introduction section of the comprehensive plan. And this is actually where I'm gonna switch to a different screen and show you the introduction section. So are you looking at the page that says introduction?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to talk through this, and then I'm actually going to go back to docket item 2003 and just talk about where we are in the process. But this is some language that is in the comprehensive plan. It's at the beginning of the plan. It's a welcome to the city's comp plan. It's a 20-year plan that articulates our vision and reflects our community's values. And so any language that we're proposing to add is showing as underlined. Anything that we're proposing to delete from the text would be shown with a strike through, with a line through the words. So the first thing we've done here is just acknowledge that during the 2020 comprehensive plan amendment process, City Council docketed 2 proposals to add a new inclusion, diversity, and equity element to this plan with anticipated adoption in 2021. The term element refers to a chapter. Element are the types of subjects that we are required to include in our comprehensive plan. There's required elements and then there's optional elements. There's no requirement to have a chapter on inclusivity and diversity. It would be considered optional, and it's something that the council has decided to move forward with. And if you'll notice, we're looking at anticipated adoption in 2021 for that chapter because we recognize that we need additional time to continue working on it. I'm going to scroll through this. I apologize for those watching. It may not be that interesting, but it kind of just gives like a background of what a comp plan is, relation to countywide planning policies, talk about the public participation process that was used leading up to the adoption of the 2017 plan. It talks about the community network analysis and all the groups in the community that participated in that. A What Matters Most survey with 812 responses. Let's get through here. We had a community's value workshop, a change over time activity, and then we worked with all these commissions to develop the chapters and the public. So now we get down here to where there's some additional new language proposed to add to the comprehensive plan. And I'm going to read it. In response to the 2020 comp plan docketing proposals to include an inclusion, diversity, and equity element, a council subcommittee conducted a listening tour to understand the experiences of marginalized groups living in Ellensburg and their recommendations to help the council better meet their needs. The groups included residents who identify as Indigenous, Black, Hispanic, Asian, or Pacific Islander, LGBTQ, Muslim, and other non-Christian religions, disabled, citizens over 65, and those with international backgrounds. At the conclusion of the listening tour, the subcommittee recommended potential changes to city policies, procedures, planning, and programming that will result in a more inclusive and welcoming community. City Council will continue to work with the community through a robust and transparent engagement process for developing the new inclusion, diversity, and equity element for inclusion in the comprehensive plan during the 2021 amendment process. Following that are the existing community value statements that were developed for the 2017 comprehensive plan. So we've added a little bit of language here to acknowledge this occurred in 2016. And the value statements are the product of the 2016-17 Heart and Soul Outreach, as well as the 2020 listening tour session. And then we have the values that are listed. And what the subcommittee came back with was a proposal to create an entirely new value statement and then make some edits to some of the other statements that were already in there. So a small town feel and sense of community being a value, it was further described with these bullet points. And they're proposing to remove valuing our inclusiveness and tolerance of others and put it into part of this entirely new value statement that comprises this statement along with 4 bullet points. And I know it's long, but I'm going to read these as well. I'm not going to read the rest of them, but this is the most important aspect of the changes to the introduction section. So the proposed value statement reads, a community that celebrates inclusion, diversity, and equity is welcoming and supportive of all residents and visitors. A community built upon the values of inclusion, diversity, and equity is a community that enriches each individual's life and the community's well-being and vitality. We value a community that cares for one another so that all people feel a sense of belonging in this community. 2, we value the rich diversity of our neighbors in Ellensburg, be that age, skin color, gender identity, ethnicity, religion, or disability, because that is what makes us stronger. 3rd, we value a future in which all who live in Ellensburg today and in the future will have access to what they need to reach their full potential so that each person may contribute fully to community well-being. Finally, we value working together collaboratively with individuals and community groups and recognize for us to do better for all requires constant review of our work and an honest self-examination of our actions. Now, moving on to the other value statements, nothing was proposed to change the built environment. We had previously identified downtown and our local economy as a value, and we've added the subcommittee proposed adding some additional language about the diversity in our community and providing inclusive products to all residents and visitors. We had a value statement about the local government, community service organizations, and we added some additional language here about diversity and equitable and inclusive processes, hiring staff, welcoming diversity candidates to run for city council. We've added a few other languages, a few other words here, and anything that's underlined, once again, is proposed to be included. Under local arts, culture, and year-round events, we've added some additional language, as you can see on the screen, valuing family-friendly, ethnic, and cultural events that promote a thriving and diverse community. Under natural environment and central location, once again, we talk about being an inclusive and environmentally friendly community that encourages community health, promotes cross-cultural community interaction. So those are the proposed verbiage changes to the comprehensive plan that came out of the docket proposal with the amount of time that was available. I can bring that up again later if you'd like, but I'm going to go on to a little bit more here. So as I stated, the information gathered during the listening sessions was used to craft those value statements, but it's also going to be utilized to aid in the creation of the new chapter that focuses on inclusivity, diversity, and equity. However, due to the time constraints, the new chapter will not be added to the comp plan in 2020 and will instead be continued into the 2021 year. This will allow for more time to conduct additional public engagement activities and events with more members of the community in order to develop the new chapter. And as with all other chapters, the new chapter will include background and context of the topic that is relevant and specific to Ellensburg. And the additional time will allow for the development of specific goals, policies, and action items that result from the community conversations on this topic. And I do have a little bit more information on that, but now I'm gonna switch over to docket proposal 2003 real quick. I'm gonna share my screen again. Get you to that docket proposal. Okay. You're seeing docket 2003 right here?
No.
No, is it the, okay.
Yeah, it's, we just
Are you
can't see
seeing it
the
now?
top of it. It's just centered. What page are we looking to get to?
295. It says comprehensive plan amendment proposal. Is it showing correctly or should I just try to share?
No, it's not.
You're
It's showing page
116.
116.
Okay,
There it is.
okay.
That's it.
Should have left it up. Okay, so this third docket proposal 2003 was submitted by a member of the public named Trenton Gardner. And I've shared this information in the report. This starts on page 86. Well, his docket proposal starts on page 95. Where I am in the report is page 86. Just get you jumping all over the place here. But this proposal is also requesting that a new chapter be added to the comp plan devoted to equity, diversity, and inclusion in our community. And he goes in here to state that because right here, because the lived experiences of Black, Indigenous people of color are critical to such a chapter, it is important that the effort is led by these members of our community. BIPOC students at Central Washington University, as important members of the community, should also be included in the development of a new chapter. I'm not going to read the rest of it. He's got some really great info in here, and I hope you all read it. However, for the same reason as stated in the description of docket item 2002, this docket request to develop a new chapter focused on equity, diversity, and inclusion will be carried forward into the 2021 year for anticipated adoption during the 2021 annual comprehensive plan amendment process. I also do want to take you to some additional language that he put on his request. Right here, it says proposed language for amendment. He says, move to form a commission that will develop a new chapter focused on equity, diversity, and inclusion to include in the 2020 update to Ellensburg City Comprehensive Plan. I just want to provide some clarification that that request to form a new commission is not an item that would actually be included as text in the comprehensive plan. That's a different item that would occur through a separate city council action. And as I already said, the City Council Subcommittee presented at their December 7th, 2020 meeting, their findings from their listening tour. And at that meeting, Council voted to move forward with the creation of a new council commission that would be dedicated to inclusion, diversity, and equity in Ellensburg. Now, the authority to create this new commission will occur through the development of a new section in Title I of the Ellensburg City Code, not the comprehensive plan. And so as with any other text amendments to the city code, City Council will hold a public hearing and 2 readings on the proposed ordinance. So I just wanted to point out that this item was recognized and it's moving forward. And from what I understand, it may be the next meeting where you're looking at the potential format and makeup of that new commission. Now, once it's created, the new commission will play a major role in developing a new chapter of the comprehensive plan. They'll be tasked with developing a robust and transparent community engagement process to be utilized during the development of the new chapter. In response to the request for docket item 2003, the new commission will coordinate with members of the BIPOC community, with Central students and other diverse segments of the community in order to develop the new chapter. Now, it's likely that there will be different city staff members that participate in helping, the new commission with some of their outreach or crafting what the questions might be, but we'll task that commission with doing it. I'm just not certain who the makeup of that board is going to be. That's something that council will decide at a later date. Now, the proposed 2020 revisions to the value statements in the introductory section of the comp plan, if you choose to move forward and adopt those changes to the comp plan tonight, they can be utilized as a starting point, simply for developing the new chapter of the comp plan. And I also want to point out, this is very important, this is a living document. So if during any future community conversations, there is a desire to update or revise those proposed 2020 value statements that I just read through, or make any other amendments to the introduction section or any other part of the entire comp plan, there's always an opportunity to request amendments during the annual amendment process. Now, I do want to go into what occurred. I'm going to stop sharing. December 2nd, 2020, the Planning Commission held their public hearing pursuant to the procedural requirements of the city code. They have 4 options. At the end of the meeting, they can approve in the form submitted for public hearing, approve with changes, approve in part, or disapproval. Now, no written comments were received in advance of the public hearing, and no members of the public testified during the hearing. At the conclusion of the hearing, the commission voted for approval in part. So more specifically, the Planning Commission recommended approval of docket item 2001 to update the 6-year capital improvement plan. 5 of the commissioners voted in favor, 2 abstained. In response to docket items 2002 and 2003, the Planning Commission did not vote to approve as submitted. The commission voted with 6 in favor, 1 against on the following motion I'm going to read to you. Recommend to City Council that the specific language on the first page of the introduction section urging the City Council to address the ideas of inclusivity, diversity, and equity be approved, but all subsequent language relating to IDE not be approved in 2020, and wait for the new IDE Commission to be appointed to draft the new language addressing inclusivity, diversity, and equity. So to further clarify, and just to give you a little bit more about their discussion, the Planning Commission felt that it would be more appropriate for the new commission to develop the language of not only the new chapter, but the amendments to the value statements as well. They simply wanted to ensure that enough time and attention and diversity of voices were included in the development of the comp plan amendments. They also wanted to ensure that the language in the introductory section references age and sexual orientation. Finally, the commission also noted that it would be appropriate to include definitions to the terms inclusion, diversity, and equity in the definitions section of the comp plan. Now, the next step in the amendment process is to conduct a public hearing before City Council, which is what is occurring tonight. Our city code states that the meeting would occur at the first meeting in October. However, due to the time constraints and to give the subcommittee more time for the listening tour, we pushed the deadlines or the timeline back. So the steps for City Council is that after recommendation from staff and the Planning Commission, and after holding a public hearing, you shall make one of the following decisions. So this is found on page 88 in your packet. So the first one could be approval in accordance with the findings and recommendations submitted by the Planning Commission. B, approval with modifications. C, refer all or part of the plan text or map amendment proposal back to the Planning Commission. D, refer all or part of the plan text or map amendment proposal to the following year's annual amendment process, or E, disapprove. So if the City Council's decision is to refer the amendment request back to the Planning Commission, the Council must specify which matters it wishes reconsidered by the Planning Commission. The final form and content of the comprehensive plan, however, is determined by the City Council. Now, as I said, this year's City Council deadlines were extended beyond October to allow additional time for the listening sessions to take place and for development of the community value statements. Confirmation has been received from the Department of Commerce that this delay in our own process will not pose any compliance issues for the city. So they're aware that we've delayed it, and they're accept that, and there's no issues there. So just moving forward with a recommendation from staff, Staff is recommending that the docket item 2001 be approved as submitted to allow for the most current capital improvement plan to be included in the appendix of the comprehensive plan. Staff additionally recommends that docket item 2002 be approved in part to include the amendments to the introductory section as submitted, and that the portions of docket items 2002 and 2003 requesting a new chapter that focuses on inclusivity, equity, and diversity be referred to the 2021 annual amendment process. This will allow that additional time for the new commission to be developed and for that commission to lead the community through a robust and transparent engagement process for developing the new chapter of the comprehensive plan. Attached for your review is a draft ordinance to be considered by council for partial adoption if you choose to move forward with that. I would also note that if you were wanting to move forward with the amendments, if you wanted to include any language that the Planning Commission had recommended, we could look at doing that before second reading. And also, I was informed today that you may be wanting to call it the DEI Commission, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusivity. If that's so, I'll change the order of the words when it comes back at the next meeting, if you're moving forward with that.
Great.
That's my long report. And if you have questions for me at the appropriate time, I'll be available.
Great, thank you. That was quite a bit to digest, but I
Yes.
appreciate you going through the level of detail and also to articulate the process that we've gone through to get to this point. Excuse me, the floor is now open to testimony from the public. Each person will have an opportunity to address council for an initial period not to exceed 5 minutes. If more time is needed, it'll be made available after everyone has had an opportunity to speak. Does anyone from the public wish to address council on this issue? I see one hand raised. Stacy Hammond.
Yes, again, this is Stacy Hammond, 308 North Sampson Street. Okay, so I'm probably gonna end up taking most of the 5 minutes, so just prepare yourselves. This is really interesting to me because here we have this meeting, which we've had some previous concerns before you started, that last week apparently there was some city folks telling people that because of the ransomware attack, that's why it was interrupting a lot of your meetings. And now here's your second one, and we have people complaining. I don't know about that because I'm not having a disturbance in my really high-speed Wi-Fi that I have right here, like 1 block from where you guys are. But it would concern me if I lived in an area or something was wrong. I mean, the bottom line is this council needs to be open. When you have public meetings and you're deciding major changes for our community while you're in active litigation with citizens, it would probably behoove you to like think about maybe opening the door and wearing a mask. If elected officials in this community can be documented going into locations that aren't even supposed to be open, then we need to make sure that the public can come into open meetings, have them outside. It was a great day today. People are sitting outside your plywood areas you've allowed the city to build outside in the road. There was people sitting there so we can have public meetings at Rotary under the pavilion if necessary. Okay. And that's going to happen. That's going to be part of my pressure. This has gotten ridiculous that you can sit in your offices, whether you have offices in the city, whoever mentioned that last time, I think Mr. Tab, or in your homes, you still are in your offices. And we want to be able to meet. If we don't have to register, you have to register to speak. But if you were to just come in unnamed, you could call out and object without saying who you are. This is the reality of America, and we don't like seeing it fall apart, okay? So then you have this major bill, which again, I honest to God have not read, or this ordinance, I have not read it. I don't know about the commission or the planning or this or that. I am understanding that perhaps the guy that launched the initial proposal is not even living in our community. That's a bit concerning. If that's the case, I don't know if that's true or not true. It would be pertinent considering we don't have people from outside of our community moving our city councils to action. That would be very disturbing. I also have concerns about this very lengthy report that was just delivered. Look, I have children in my house with disabilities that the Ellensburg School District is paying thousands of dollars a month to have in my home to provide basic speech therapy. Not everybody can understand what you're saying. Not everyone has, hearing or sight or can be on the internet because of their money or they can whatever. I mean, you are excluding massively people that struggle all the time to even understand. And this woman just put on a presentation that was like a court hearing. It was so intense, voluminous and interesting and long and not for the average citizens. So we've got 2 meetings and you expect everyone to understand what you're saying or doing here. People are going to get really upset at you guys because you're not allowing for the basic public to have information. I am probably the person 100% sure that speaks the most at your meetings. And yet I didn't know you had listening sessions this summer. I live right here. I didn't know nothing about listening sessions. So that means you're not doing a very good job advertising. I have internet. I'm totally interested in what you're doing. I am here. I live here. I got kids everywhere. I've got people from all sides of the fence talking to me. I know nothing about them. So that concerns me. You know, it's just, again, I think it would be my advice at this point to you, but also to the public. This is not happening anymore. This is not happening anymore. You're going to do what people need to have happen in this community where everyone can be involved. So open your doors. If you guys are too scared of COVID or whatever, let people in there that can open the doors and change the policies to allow and petition the governor to allow people to have open public meetings. I know people are doing it in the state. So you guys are saying no. So then get out and let people that are willing to have open public meetings then launch the meetings. I don't know. We're real tired of it. And there's a lot of people that are tired of it. And they're going to get more tired of it as things get weirder. You know, we get more food pressures or more economic pressures or more election pressures or whatever it may be. Okay. So I just highly suggest that your council get in order, get in legal compliance, stop acting unethically, stop, having records ransomwares. Tell us what you're doing with our, $500,000. Tell us what the police are doing with their missing budget money. Tell us what's going on. Okay. Because you're responsible for it. I've been on a board before. You can be sued personally. That's what I did today. So start acting ethically. If you don't know what's going on, invest your time like I'm investing mine or anybody else might be investing theirs into finding out what your fellow commissioners might be doing, or council might be doing, or commissioners or public health that might be violating people's rights, because that's happening actively. It's happening to me, it's happening to my family, and it's happening to others. Pay attention to the Supreme Court, the Washington State Supreme Court. I'm putting you on notice right now. Ignorance is not an excuse to violate another person's constitutional rights. It's not. If you don't know the Constitution, you should not be an elected representative of our country. If you need to learn about it, go find it. There's little leaflets. They're like $2. Read it. If you don't understand it, hire a lawyer and ask them if you're doing it. Okay? Seriously. Wake
Okay,
up.
Stacy,
Thank you
that's
so
your
much.
5 minutes. Thank you. I have Jenny Kunsley next up.
Can you hear me?
We can, yeah. Can you get your name and
Okay.
address?
Jenny Kensley, 41 Bynum Road.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to speak on a previous speaker that was talking about public hearings and not having good access. And then the justification was that it's on cable. So I just wanted to point out, I don't have cable. And with as many people as I know that are now dropping cable to go to Roku and Hulu and Amazon Prime and Netflix, I don't think that's a very, very justified reason to say that. So there's just so many people who don't have cable that I really think we need to fix the issue with the live streaming in order to be able to facilitate that.
Thank you. Next up, I think we have Landis Hansen.
Hi, yeah, Landis Hansen, 1015 East 18th Avenue. I would actually echo some of those concerns about accessibility to these meetings. Maybe live streaming it on YouTube would be an idea. I am not in favor of public meetings out in the open due to COVID, but I do understand those concerns. I would also urge the city council.
Oh, we just lost you, I think. So we just lost that feed completely. So Landis, I'm still showing you as a participant, but I'm not.
Sorry, I actually ended up losing internet connection. How far did I get there?
Well, I think you were just talking about accessibility and then.
Yeah.
But I think
I-
it would be helpful if we can, we recognize that there may be challenges which we can look into. This is a public hearing on the comprehensive docket.
Right.
Plan.
Yeah, and let me jump into that. I would urge the city council to move that forward. I know Trey personally, and he does live in the community. He's lived here for the past 2 years, and he's an active member in the community. And if he recommends this, then I 100% back on that. Yeah, thank you so much for hearing me.
Good, thank you. Anyone else wish to approach at this point? I see Teresa Plough.
Hang on. Can you hear me?
We can.
Teresa Plough, 140 Woodhouse Loop. I want to repeat, if Stacy, who's clearly one of the most aware residents of Ellensburg, isn't aware of this diversity agenda policy, then the public is in the dark. This is wrong. I believe it's wrong. Now I'm going to address, let's see. I was at a meeting previously, and I'm going to address the equity piece of this. You referred me, Bruce Tabbs and the rest of the city council, when I was questioning about the art project down on the Chamber of Commerce, Commerce building, to define racial equity. So you couldn't, it wasn't able to be defined. So I was referred to a document, and I went to their website. It's called racialequityalliance.org. They contain the toolkit for which you receive training from CWU University, some of your members. It is your plan for transforming our community and completely changing it from what it was into something different. Diversity, equity, inclusion programs. First of all, and I've read it carefully, you probably know it even better than me. Programs violate the constitutionally recognized rights of the US citizens. Equity is not the same as equality under the Constitution of the US or the state constitution. There is no evidence that these government policies actually help those they claim to be for. Mounting evidence points, I believe, to the exact opposite result. Programs are expensive. They run up the cost to taxpayers with zero benefit if you look at the evidence. You cannot legislate morality. I'm concerned that's coming out of this bill. The feedback loop to a commission, which then they're taking complaints about whether you're giving the right virtual signal to people or saying the right words. And a lot of the words they use in the documents are completely different than what normal residents here in the long-term residents here use as words. They change the meanings of them. These ordinances have proven to be disastrous. And what I can see, every city that's mentioned in the Reliance racialequityalliance.org document. Seattle is their main city. Then you've got Portland. They mentioned Minneapolis, some other urban areas. And it's just, let's see. I'm fine with time. Okay, somebody's timing me here because I want to get it all in. When I looked at the website, what I saw was that all those cities were following that model, and that we are following the model of how Seattle was transformed by their city council. I want to say that we're a few years behind them. They did this a little before us. I want everybody clearly in this community, I want the city council to look at what the outcome is happening in those communities. There's divisiveness, there's violence, businesses' windows are being smashed out. There have been businesses here that have experienced vandalism. And there's one of them that I'm quite sure are from the activists that came into this town. They have private groups. And they talk very mean and hateful towards most of the residents in this community. They talk against Christians. They talk again, they're trying, it seems like they're trying to lump everybody who appreciates the Constitution and the American flag as, what do they call them? Nazi groups? The Nazi watchers? I'm really concerned about what's going on in this town. I want you to look at the divisiveness, the violence. Seattle is not looking good. Portland isn't looking good. And I do not want Ellensburg, and neither do the residents in this town or the city or the valley want to see this happening in our community. These are extremist groups. And we don't need this kind of violence. We don't need revolution and a takeover of our town by one group of people who, when you study them privately, they're extremists. You haven't heard from the other side of the community. I really want better from Ellensburg. I think we can do better, but I really, deep in my heart, know that this isn't the way to go, you guys. It's going to shred our community apart. We can do this by sitting down around tables.
Teresa,
and just
that's your 5 minutes, please.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, folks. There we go. Not sure how to turn off my timer. I've got Betty Douglas next in the queue.
Sorry, Mr. Tab, I forgot to unmute.
No, we're good. I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. My name is Betty Douglas. I live at 315 West Helena Avenue here in Ellensburg. I wish you could listen to what Teresa said again, because I didn't know what she was going to say, but I could almost say exactly the same thing. I have many concerns over this diversity, equity, and inclusion. It does nothing but tear us apart. We already are a welcoming community. I don't know who you found to do your listening tour. When I asked when the listening tour was so that we could have people attend and listen, we didn't get any dates. We didn't get any locations. We got nothing. And then you do the tours, you write the report, and we're supposed to just accept it, not even being able to verify whether or not that's what people actually said and how they feel. And then what is the percentage of people that feel? Because this is a larger community than just the few who don't feel included. Another question is, why don't they feel included? Do they do anything to try to feel included? And I have to say, I don't think so, because they're not going to where the public activities are. The only time I see an Hispanic family, an Asian family, a Black family is when I go to my grandson's band concert and they're there because their kids are at the band concert. Or when I go to a sporting activity because their kids are also involved in that sporting activity. So you can't put a clause or a chapter in the comprehensive plan telling the white people of this community that they have to change to accept people that they're already accepting. How many times have you walked down the street and spoken to somebody you don't know? Especially, have you spoken to a Black person? Have you spoken to an Hispanic person? And I have. I speak to people all the time that I don't know. And I maybe go out of my way to make sure that they feel welcome, no matter who they are or where they're from. We have a lot of people coming in here as visitors. And I think if you're going to write a new chapter to the comprehensive plan that is going to tell our business owners and our community event planners how they have to do it, it's going to ruin the whole thing. It's not going to be on the spur of the moment anymore. You can't just do something, you have to take time to plan it. And you have to make sure that you include all the right groups of people in order to do it. I also have had a problem with public hearings because your mind is already made up. You made up your mind clear back in June, July, August. You did all those hearings, you wrote that paper. Your mind is already made up. You're only doing this because state law says you have to have 2 public hearings. And that's what you're doing. If I ever once saw any one of a city council member, and I've watched city council members for years, if I ever saw a city council member change their mind because of something that the public said, because they finally got their eyes and their minds opened to what the public actually feels, I would be amazed, because I don't think any of you do it. And I would recommend that you not even address 2002 and 2003. We don't need it. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got Tricia Snyder next up.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we're good.
Great.
Thanks.
Tricia Snyder, 708 East 7th Avenue, number 1. I just wanted to say thank you to the City Council for moving this proposal forward. I helped work with Trenton a little bit on this, and I think it's really important for the City of Ellensburg to recognize its BIPOC community members and other diverse groups. The fact is that Ellensburg is a diverse community. Frankly, I'm a little shocked at hearing some of the generalizations from other commenters. I thought staff did a great job in putting forward a pretty comprehensive report on what was going on. And these are value statements that are being added, which is great, but is not really a lot of action. So I'm also very pleased to see that the City Council is working on pulling together that commission that Trenton referenced. I think that piece is really important, and just want to highlight that again. I think we all, as one caller said, want Ellensburg to be better. And I just want to reiterate that I think that we do better and we are better when all voices are heard and when there is an inclusive environment. So thank you for taking that into account.
Thank you. The last person right now would be Tylene Carnell. If you have your hand up now, I'm not going to call on you until we run back through whether staff has anything to add, and there will be an opportunity to speak again. So Tylene?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I too would like to just thank you, Mayor Tabb and City Council, for moving this forward, for the listening to her and sitting down, and the time and the energy that's been put in moving this forward. I wanted to address a couple of things that were brought up about this being a welcoming community. I've lived here for 20 years. I'm a white transgender person living in this community. I don't know how much more I, as a white transgender person, could be out and engaged and involved in this city, in the things that are going on in this city. But there's also times that I walk down the street looking over my shoulder. There are times that I go sit in my car and wait for the store to empty out before I can go in, because I don't feel comfortable going into the store. So the idea that Ellensburg is a completely welcoming city it is a welcoming place. But it could be better. It could be better. And I'm just really amazed at how we're just in the you all, and as a city, we are in the very beginning of this conversation, and we're already talking about a revolution. And we're already talking about violence, and we're already talking about when really the only part of this thing is really to try to make Ellensburg a more welcoming community. So I do hope that we wind up seeing a different Ellensburg than what we've seen in the past. The other thing I want to throw out is, that I've attended a lot of these city council meetings over time, and especially during the COVID, I've called into a bunch of them, and I've gone to the ECTV and watched them. And I will say that this is the first one that there has been an access issue. So I think that accessing it through ECTV is really a pretty reliable thing, but nothing is perfect. And then the other thing I'll throw out too is, that I hear a lot of conversation about not having opportunities for public meetings. I sat in city council before the COVID thing. I sat in City Hall many, many times through city council meetings, being the only person from the community in the room. Nobody else was there, countless times. So there's opportunity to engage if you want to. But the heart of what I want to say is that I just want to let you all know that I appreciate the work that you're putting into this and the direction that you'd like to take it. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Do we have anybody else who has not spoken to this point who would like to speak to the issue?
Bruce, I didn't get that person's address.
Oh, Tylene, can you circle back with the name and address?
Sure, Tylene Carnell, 208 South Ruby. Sorry.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Beth. Anyone else who would like to approach at this point? So does staff have anything to add?
I do not. I'm just available for questions.
Okay, so is there anyone in the audience who would like to add? I'm going to stress this, non-repetitive information or evidence about this matter. Landis, I see a hand for Landis Hansen.
You know, I honestly didn't mean to raise my hand, but I will speak anyways. Did I freeze again? You guys?
No, you're good. We can hear you.
Okay, awesome. I would just like to say, as a Jewish man in this community, I often don't feel welcome, and yeah, I'd just like to add that, and I would like to. I know you said no repeats, but I think that adding diversity and inclusion and equity to our values would be a great idea. So, and would make me feel more welcome. So, thank you.
Good, thank you. I've got Stacy Hammond.
Oh yeah, hi, this is Stacy Hammond again, 308 North Sampson. So I'm going to talk a bit about the diversity also to follow up. I can hear, really both sides of this. I can understand why there's a conflict. I just want to make sure from the council, because you guys are the ones in the government leading the decisions, that you understand that I think it was the man that said he attended the meetings also. Like, I would attend the meetings before COVID a lot more frequently had we had internet access, because I'm a single mom of multiple children. So getting to the place, like maybe if I had a mobility issue too, getting to the place can be challenging. So sometimes virtual has helped improve my access, as you can see.
Okay, so let's go back to the docketed amendments, please. And
yeah, so what I was trying to explain about access, because that's a person with a disability, which I have in my home. So we're talking about an equity bill. So anyway, the point is access happens for different ways for different people. And so in that same light in this bill, it's just understood that you would want to include a person like myself, who's also very involved, that has disabled people as representing, not just particular aspects. Like, I think it was added by Mrs. Kristen Sackett that she said you're going to be adding ageism. It's really important because, of course, there's been a lot of talk about, like, old women has come up a lot within these kind of subcommittees and stuff. And so we want to make sure ageism is included, and that we always attend to all of these areas where people are sidelined, in that way. That's basically what I'm trying to say. Is I disagree with a lot of what I heard tonight. I don't want to hear about, honestly, this is my personal opinion, I don't want to hear about how people go to sports events and that's the only place they see diverse populations. I see diverse populations in this community every day, because everyone has a unique quality. Okay, this has just gone way too far. I don't know what the hell's going on here, honestly, but people struggle. Get everybody and as many people at the table as possible, and we have a better community. That's the concern that I have. Is I am often the only person in the queue, and I'm tired of talking only. Open up the doors, open up the lines of communication, wide open. Just make it wide open, and it's going to be better. The dialogue will go more smoothly eventually. It'll be just hard at the beginning, but just open up. Thank you.
I think we lost that. Speaking of, I have Hannah Frieden. Hey, Hannah.
Yes, hello. I just have a few statements I want to make, as I'm at Hannah Frieden, 1201 South Chestnut Street, number 311. My comment is that I'm stunned tonight. I grew up here in this town, left here in 73, and I've lived in Los Angeles, Seattle, Texas, Colorado, small communities, huge cities. And when I came back to this town, I felt the whiteness here. I'm white and I felt it. And I want to thank the city council for having the courage to move forward on a topic that apparently sets off a lot of people in unusual ways. I grew up with a gay brother. He doesn't like coming to this town still as an adult. The treatment he had in the schools were abhorrent. And I am grateful that we have people who are willing to open up the discussion, as difficult as this discussion will be. I think that people are hyper tense because of the COVID and being isolated. So it is interesting the way we communicate these days. And I want to thank you so much. This has been an educational listening evening for me, and I look forward to further conversations with people. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I have Teresa Plouffe.
Teresa Plouffe, 140 Woodhouse Loop. Let's see, I didn't know that we were talking about the second docket also. I thought it was 2 times we were going to talk. Anyways, second docket. I have a concern. Early on, I was looking at Trenton Gardner's Facebook page. It morphed into something a little nicer. There were comments on there was a magic school bus thing, a green bus. And on the bottom, if you looked at the small print, it talked about
Okay, I'm not clear, if I may, I'm not clear how an individual's Facebook page plays into our conversation about docketing a comprehensive plan amendment.
Okay, let me explain it.
So no, I don't want it explained. Really,
Oh.
I do not want it explained. We're not going to accept testimony that's personal or derogatory.
Okay, let's take the person
what-
out of it. Can we take the people name out of it? Some of the groups I'm seeing going on.
We have a docket in front of us.
Okay.
That is a comprehensive plan amendment.
Okay.
We are speaking to that.
I will repeat. It's causing a revolutionary element to raise up on the leftist side. It is. You saw an extreme right group come through with posters. There were posters planted today all over town. Police are aware of it. It has a certain symbol on it, which is I think a virtual signal for a power fist, and it's calling for revolution in our town. There are other groups that are, punch Nazis. Now, what does that mean? I'm really concerned about the divisiveness and stuff, and I hope that what's happening here doesn't exacerbate it. I'm concerned it will, only because I see it going on in the other big cities, Seattle, Portland, whatever. I think that we need more police presence here to protect our small businesses as this moves forward from some of the posters I'm seeing put on particular businesses.
Okay.
Thank you. Work on protecting us.
Thank you. Okay, I think so. I appreciate the input from the public and from staff. Council, do you have any questions of staff or public?
I have a question for Kirsten. Kirsten, you mentioned you were going to change the IDE order to DEI, and that you needed the Planning Commission wanted a couple of language changes to include age and sexual orientation. Do you know, have you identified where those need to go?
Let me share screen. I think, sorry,
I was just going to offer some help if you hadn't figured that out.
Well, okay, so like Nancy,
I'm just assuming they meant within who they talked to, the discussion on the groups they met with.
Yeah,
They said they wanted to make sure that was included, but I don't know if the subcommittee met with folks, specifically about age or sexual orientation.
I was the liaison for the Planning Commission, and that wasn't my interpretation of the comments.
Okay, if we're going to get it, these need to be framed as questions. If we need to have conversation within council, we can have that after we close the public hearing. And if we need to, we can reopen the public hearing to clarify what staff's intent is or direct staff. We can direct staff after we've closed the public hearing.
And I would just comment that if the members of the subcommittee would like to propose changes to any of the text as part of your motion, please do so, and then guide me as to where you want those changes made, because I didn't make any changes based on what they said.
Right. Oh, perfect. Thank you. Any other questions of the public or staff?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to talk about the other comp plan amendment, the capital facilities plan. And I had some questions about on page 102. If I can get there again. Under the Parks and Rec Capital Improvement Plan, Reed Park. So again, this was docketed last summer. We've since had discussion about developing a plan for Reed Park, and it's not reflected in this capital improvement plan for developing the plan, and then the money for improving Reed Park is way out in 2025. And I'm curious if that matters. We're already moving forward with the plan, and it's, I guess my understanding would be that we could move that up at any time. I mean, we don't know what the plan says. We don't know when it would occur, and we don't know how much it would cost, but there's a placeholder in here, but it's way out in 2025. And I kind of thought that the intent would be to move forward with that once we had a plan. And wondering if we should move that 2025 forward. The money, or does it matter?
I see Brad Case on the line, and I thought perhaps he might have got on to answer that.
You're in the wrong meeting, Brad.
I'll just speak in generalities about the comp
Yeah,
plan. Brad
because
wants to
Terry,
direct-
I would need direction on whether, because that was not part of the report, we can, which
But-
staff can now interact.
It is part of the report to the extent that the CIP is included as an exhibit. So I think it'd be appropriate to let the Parks and Rec director speak to it.
Okay, thank you. So how you guys want to do it? There's a question on the table for staff.
I'd like an answer as well.
Okay, so the timing of our CIP, we went to the Parks and Rec Commission in August, prior to the neighborhood group coming to council and the decision to move forward with hiring a consultant and updating the plan. So the cost that's reflected in there doesn't take into account any of that work that was done from September, October on. And so that's what you see there.
Is there an advantage to moving that forward into and to not signify that we're going to push that out to 2025, or is that where?
I think we can move it. We can move it forward. I think we need to have a better handle on what those improvements are going to be and what the cost is going to be associated with those improvements. So I would my recommendation would be let the planning process kind of unfold and take place. And then when we update, the timing of it may be consistent with the next round of updates that we do for the following year. If it's not, then we can potentially, as Kirsten said, open it back up and bump it forward.
Is it possible to amend, I guess is the question, or is there an advantage to moving it to a priority?
Right now, I don't see any benefit in moving it up at this very moment. I think, if we were to look for funding opportunities to make improvements, it's important to reflect that in your current CIP year, if possible. We're not in a position to do any of that right now because we don't know what those improvements are going to be yet.
So we could amend it next year when we have more information.
Absolutely.
So second question then is on the pavilion, Rotary Pavilion property, it listed as an acquisition.
Yeah, and I think what happened
500,021.
is the process of getting information through departments and getting it in the agenda book, it wasn't changed to reflect development instead of acquisition. And so what the commission did was they supported the development of the the development of the Rotary Pavilion property and not the acquisition, because obviously we already have that. So that was an error on our staff side.
Does that need to be amended or in our process tonight?
If you want to make a motion to do so, we can change that word.
Okay.
Make it more clear.
Because that definitely was the intent of the commission when they forwarded the recommendations.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions of staff or the public? The public testimony portion of this hearing is now closed. Council may now begin its discussion and deliberation of this matter. Council.
I'll start. I really appreciate everyone bringing their thoughts and their concerns forward. I have to say that what we're doing is not unusual, and it is not just big liberal cities that have done it. When we were looking at what we did, it is really pervasive across the United States, including cities like Pasco and other not huge, smallish communities, Bend, Oregon. It is not an unusual thing to have a DEI commission. It is not a radical idea, and it does not. I do not want to be Seattle or Portland or any of those cities, and I don't think that by saying we are a community that values and respects all of our citizens, that we get there in any way, shape, or form. I agree, we cannot legislate morality, and we are not trying. We are simply adding statements to our comprehensive plan that says this is what we value. And even the folks who spoke against the amendments have said that they value that they do value the inclusion and diversity that we talk about. I don't know how those words became trigger words, but our conversations with people in this community suggest that we can do better. It is not perfect. And I mean, frankly, I understand by adding this language, we don't make it perfect. I agree. We have to do the work of sitting around tables together and talking. And that is, that was the hope from the people we talked to. Their hope was that by interacting together at events, at, in the community, that we would get to know each other and the fear of each other would be diminished. So I hear what you're saying. The community does feel divided right now. And, in part, I think it's a misrepresentation and a misunderstanding of what it is we're really trying to do. We are not trying to be Seattle. We do not want to be Seattle. but we want to be an Ellensburg that we all say we are. We want to be that place where we are an inclusive, welcoming community. And if having some value statements in our comprehensive plan signals that and helps people understand that that's what we are, then I think we should move forward with those statements.
So are you prepared to make a motion?
Does anyone else have anything to say? Or sure.
Well, we can make statements as after we've made a motion. It would be good, given the time of the evening and the discussion that's taken place, to get the motion on the table so we can move forward.
Okay, I have to.
I mean, you don't have to do it. Somebody else can make the motion. The motion is if to the extent that we can, the motion is in the recommended actions. Do we want a question to staff or to John, Terry, or Kirsten? Do we need? You've got
3 motions, I think.
Well, that's my question. What's going to be the cleanest here?
I would suggest taking the motions in the order in the packet. So items 2, 3, and 4 under recommended action.
Okay.
So I'll go ahead and move approval of the comp plan amendment docket item 2001 as submitted by staff.
Did you want to? Okay.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion and second to approve the comprehensive plan amendment docket item 20-01 is submitted by staff. Is there further discussion?
Can I propose an amendment to that to on page 102, the Rotary Pavilion, substitute the word development for acquisition?
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion and second to substitute the word acquisition for development on
development for acquisition.
Development for acquisition on, I don't know what page it was.
102.
On page 102 in the plan. Is there further discussion on the amendment? All those in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Aye.
I too vote aye. That motion carries. Thank you, Tristan. And then we have a motion and second now for the amended docket 20-01. So further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
I too vote aye. That we get it? I'll wait. Thank you. That motion carries. So that would bring us to what's outlined then.
I'll make that motion if you want.
Sure.
I move that we approve docket item 2002 be approved in part to include the amendments to the introductory section as submitted. And that the portions of docket items, that goes to 2003, I think, doesn't it? Or does it go to 2002? Kirsten, can you give me?
So I think the motion could be the approve the amendments to the introduction section of the comprehensive plan as submitted by staff, basically in our packet.
Okay. As submitted, staff.
To partially complete docket item 20-02 and 20-03.
Okay.
Would that get
second.
it? So we have a motion and second.
Do we need an amendment for the language changes in those, or is that?
Yeah, well, let's get to whether we want to amend within that first. So, next. So we do have the amendment. No, I'm sorry. We have a motion and second to approve the amendments as submitted in our packet in partial completion of the docket items 20-02, 20-03, and just a reference there. Fundamentally, and Kirsten, give me what we're looking at are those items that were underlined in the introduction as added language, and those items that were crossed as deleted language in the introduction only. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, that's what's in our packet. Now, so we do have that motion in second. Now, to Nancy's point, I think what I heard from Kirsten in her report was the IDE that we've been using generally is now diversity, equity, and inclusion. Just in the broader world, we can consider that, is that just a Scrivener's area in essence? It's not a material change. Do we need a motion for that?
I would characterize that as a Scrivener's change.
Okay, thank you. So that's clean. Then Nancy Goodlow, there was the piece that Kirsten mentioned, I believe.
Yeah.
Be
sure to include age and sexual orientation. That may be a Scrivener's error too. I don't know.
Not, that one probably, because isn't it adding in language?
Yeah, it's particularly cursed on page 114.
Terry, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, because you're adding language, I would handle that as part of the amendment.
Yeah. Okay. So I actually got that. I actually got that one right. Let the record note. Okay. So can you give us that amended?
Yeah, on page 114 at the bottom, the second value, it says we value the rich diversity of our neighbors in Ellensburg, be that age, skin color, gender identity. I would recommend that we insert sexual orientation in there, and then ethnicity, religion, or disability.
What about age?
What about the age piece?
And age?
Well, it says age.
That was on the first line.
Oh, it
Leave
is.
that in.
You're right.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. So we have a motion and second to amend the language to add sexual orientation on page, what are we adding?
114.
114. Is there any further discussion on the amendment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I too vote aye. That motion carries. Is there any further discussion on the amended docket, amended motion for the comprehensive plan docket items? Hearing none, then all those in favor of the amended, go ahead. I'm sorry, Stacy.
So I just want to be clear that what we are putting forward is only amending the comprehensive plan in the introductory section.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, and I think, yes. So we do have that motion on the table. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I too vote aye. That motion carries. Then do we need a motion to refer the remainder of those? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to make a motion to refer the remainder of docket items 20-02 and 20-03 to the 2021 year, which I understand to be the development of a chapter.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay, so we do have a motion and second to refer the remainder of docket items 20-02 and 20-03 into the 2021 year cycle. Recognizing that is to include a comprehensive plan chapter. Any further discussion on that motion?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yes.
So I am wondering about staff capacity, and I'm wondering about a work plan to get us to the end with a chapter. I understand that it is not going to write itself, so I guess I'd like some feedback, perhaps at our in a future meeting, as to what the plan would be to accomplish that.
If you'd like us to do that in a future meeting, we certainly can. I think it will be working with the commission to kind of come up with ideas. We need to determine which city staff, and also if there might be other forms of assistance. There might be some community groups out there that the commission can work with, but we'll want to come back for sure, because the community is very interested in watching these meetings.
And I guess we don't know that there will be a commission yet, and it hasn't been before the council. I mean, we've agreed in concept, but not in detail. And we, contrary to comments tonight, I have been known to change my mind on things. This is probably not one of them, but you know, due to public comment. So, you know, perhaps the council will change their mind on that. So I don't want to assume anything.
Well, perhaps at second reading of this, if we have any information on, you know, a work plan, we can share that at that point. But right now, we haven't developed it.
Yeah.
Just trying to get through
And
this.
I think Nancy's just asking just broadly speaking. We don't need it. It's not to nail down the detail of it. It's just kind of an overview. Okay, so then help me. Do we still have the motion on the floor? Or are we good?
We saw the motion on the floor.
Okay, so we have
vote yet.
Yeah, so we have a motion and second to refer the remainder of docket items 20-02 and 20-03 into the 2021 year. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I too vote aye. That motion carries. Thank you. And I want to thank everyone who showed up to provide feedback and testimony.
We have one more motion.
No, I understand.
Okay.
But this was around, what we heard this evening so far was around the comprehensive plan docketing. So I was just wanting to, before we moved into the ordinance, thank people who provided information, testimony and feedback on the docketing process and the comprehensive plan language and amendments that we were reviewing. So with that, we do have a first reading of an ordinance. It would be 4869. Council.
I'll move first reading of ordinance 4869.
I'll second.
We have a motion and second to conduct first reading of 4869, referring to the comprehensive plan amendments. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I too vote aye. That motion carries. If the clerk would read the ordinance.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Ellensburg, Washington, amending the comprehensive plan adopted by ordinance number 4785 and set out in chapter 15.120 of the Ellensburg City Code.
Great, thank you. Okay, then we're now at 9A. This is 132. It's a resolution accepting a donation from the Ellensburg Duplicate Bridge Club, which we would hope is non-controversial.
Good evening, Council, Mr. Mayor. A resolution has been prepared for your consideration, accepting a donation in the amount of $1,346.59 from the Ellensburg Duplicate Bridge Club for activities and supplies at the Adult Activity Center. The Bridge Club is made up of about 12 people who used to use the Adult Activity Center when we were open about once a week to play bridge. The city code, section 2.04.120 states the council must approve any restricted donation valued in excess of $1,000. City staff requests the donation be added into the center's donation revenue line and supplies budget expenditure for the 2021 budget, and recommends that the staff adopt the attached resolution accepting the donation from the Ellensburg Bridge Club and the associated necessary budget adjustments with that. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Great, thank you. Council.
I move resolution 2021-01 be adopted.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and second to adopt resolution 2021-01, accepting a restricted donation of $1,346.59 from the Ellensburg Duplicate Bridge Club and authorizing the necessary budget adjustments. Is there any further discussion? I would just note that it's remarkable that I didn't realize people still played bridge, but that's cool. It's easier to play bridge possibly than pickleball. Right.
So is duplicate bridge different than bridge, or is there two bridge clubs?
That's the duplicate.
There you go. It's different. I don't know how, but it's different.
Okay.
Okay, we do have a motion and second on the floor. Is there any further discussion that's germane to anything? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I too vote aye. That motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
Okay, then that brings us down. We don't have any unfinished or new business this evening. We do have a manager's report, and we will need an executive session.
Mr. Mayor, Council, Chapter 207 of the Ellensburg City Code requires that you conduct a public hearing in order to declare and make surplus property available to the market. In order to do that, and respect the fact that some material has accumulated, staff has requested that you schedule a public hearing on the 19th to conduct that public hearing and adopt the enabling resolution.
Council.
I so move.
Second.
So a motion second to conduct a public hearing regarding surplus materials and items on the meeting of January 19th. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I too vote aye. That motion carries. Thank you.
Aye.
And then you mentioned the need for a public hearing. We do in fact need, or an executive session. We do in fact need that session under the authority of RCW 4230, 110, sub 1, sub A, sub double I. And it's for the purpose of discussion of a security breach issue that we're currently dealing with.
Great. Thank you.
We anticipate about 15 minutes for that discussion, and no action is slated to follow.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
That's it.
That'd be no and God no. Let's move to council member reports. We can start. Nancy Goodlow, do you have anything?
I do not have any reports tonight.
Thank you. Tristan?
No report.
You kind of froze up there too. Okay, thank you. Stacy?
Just wanted to note that the EBDA is having their annual planning session on the 13th for anybody who wants to participate or watch. Other than that, no report.
Great, thank you. Mary?
I haven't had any meetings.
Nancy Lillquist?
Yeah, I wanted to just respond briefly to a letter to the editor on the 29th by Kent DeVault. And I just want to be clear that nothing that council is doing is mandating anything for businesses. There are no quotas being proposed. We have not discussed anything of the sort. And it is a rumor that is going around that I don't know where it came from, but it is malicious, I think. And I just to be clear, in case you hear that rumor, the city council does not and will not even consider requiring businesses to hire anybody. So, thanks.
I don't believe we can, but that's another whole side issue apparently. So that being said, the only thing I think I'd really just update folks on, the staff, we've been working on an interlocal around the UGA for 231 years and have yet to get it finished. We have we thought agreement in principle. We didn't quite get there. There was some pushback from a particular segment of the market, which I think made the commissioners more hesitant to proceed. Stacy has indicated that she would be glad to follow up with the commissioners and the community segments to have a conversation to see if there's ways that we could reach an agreement on the interlocal, incorporating those concerns or putting those concerns to rest for good and all. I believe that Tristan is also in a moment of weakness agreed or indicated that she would be willing to work on that. So if council is, I mean, you know, again, the underlying piece here is ultimately it's my recollection of why we initiated this conversation was Nancy Lilquist being very clear that the county was not following our street plats. And that really, all we really had wanted at one point was their agreement not to redo Fennig Road the way they had done it, in essence, if you want a visual. It has since morphed into revenue sharing. It's morphed into impact fees, development codes, standards. I mean, just a whole range of things, some of which probably are in our interest, some of which are not. Or some of which we may not care about. I guess not in our interest, but some of which we may simply not care about. Because ultimately, if it's in the UGA, we're going to annex, and the real underlying motivation for us was to make an annexation as seamless as we possibly could, with roads, curbs, gutter, and sidewalks that met our standards. So if council is okay with Stacy and Tristan, again, pursuing that conversation, it might finally lead us to that closure, but at least bring back some additional information.
Sounds
Good? Yeah.
I'm happy to let you guys take that on. Just a reminder that the Growth Management Act, I mean, the whole purpose of setting up a UGA is to have the county and city kind of coordinate the development within that area,
right,
with the idea that it would one day be city and you know, move from county to city. And I guess I would suggest that we have more interest in that than perhaps the county does, because they're giving it up and we will take it on. And if we take it on in an inferior position, we have catch up to do. And so, but to me, the absolute most important thing is to preserve road right of ways, because that's a skeleton upon which everything else is built. And if we don't do it, we get bottlenecks into the future forever, or have to pay a lot of money to buy one lot and one house so we can make our road connections so that traffic will flow smoothly for everyone, not just city residents. So that's the importance of it, in my perspective.
I hear you, Nancy. I agree. I think it's fiscally responsible for everybody within the city to inherit something that doesn't require us to do a bunch of rework. And I think the county, everybody that lives in the county is familiar with Fenning not going through. So I think everybody's aware of exactly the kind of thing we're talking about.
Great, thanks.
Okay, so if we're good with that, let's just kind of consider that the blessing. Maybe you can update us when as you begin to meet with folks. And then if there is any kind of support we need, just let us know. Go from there. We do need to move into an executive session per John's RCW 40.30 1.10 sub 1 sub A sub whatever that is. Two little dots. I don't know what eyes. We need a 5-minute break. It's 20 after 9. Come back at 25 after.
Let's just. I'll be coming back here, obviously. There's a separate link for the executive session. So-
Yeah, right. So just a reminder, we need to exit this meeting. And then you should have received a link for the executive session, and we'll go into that. It's not to exceed 15 minutes. Good. Thank you.